Welcome back to the Digigods podcast. It's Wade here with Tim, standing in for Mark once again.
Standing in for Mark.
We're banking the show early, and we're gonna give Mark a little bit more time to get over his viral bronchitis, which I guess his doctor told him the coughs hang around for 6 weeks now.
Oh, I could see that.
That's awful,
dude. All the bugs. All the viruses,
yeah.
all the bacteria, all the you name it, they're all more virulent, angrier, and generally just kind of pissed off at Mark.
Well, anyway, we're gonna hopefully give him until close. We probably come back around the what are we now? We're like early October. So,
are you a flu shot guy?
I already have mine.
You, the baby, everybody
done. When you have a toddler, you
do the thing.
Yeah,
you do the thing. I don't know. Whatever. I guess I'm getting to be that age where you have to do it because the CDC recommends that people my age. So it's like, how you have that period in between your babies, you got to do the babies. Then you have that period where you're kind of safe, and then you get to be a certain age where, you should get the flu shot at your age. The hell does that mean? Anyway, I'm going to get one anyway.
Yeah, no, I already have mine for this season. They used to give it to me in halves. I don't even take the halves anymore. Give me the full dose. Yeah, it used to be the doctor would be like, I'll give you half a shot now and half a shot in 3 or 4 days. It's like, no, I'll take the whole dose right now. Shoot me up. So anyway, we got some listener mail. I was going to hang on to until Mark came back, but we can talk through a lot of this. And otherwise, we're in. We talked about last week how we're kind of ramping up for awards season, so it's all in the offing.
Yeah,
haven't gotten any more screeners though.
I have neither, which is sort of strange. We had that little run of screeners, 2 or 3. People getting out early. Here's the thing. As we look towards the films that will be. There's not a single film that I'm deeply, deeply anticipating, looking forward to greatly, as a part of this run through the award season. There's nothing look. Moonlight is a little indie that people are talking about. Came out of a
and on the heels of all of the diversity stuff. Yeah, everyone is focusing on Birth of a Nation, Loving, and Moonlight. Yeah. Those are the 3. Yeah,
all of which strike me as interesting films for one reason.
But you're
another,
right. They're not. But they're not sort of boom. Here's your your Rain Man, or here's your No, I get that. Or I don't know. I mean,
King's Speech.
Right. Something will. I have a feeling something will emerge.
It will have to be one of those years where something emerges.
La La Land.
Yeah,
there's the one.
Yeah,
that's the one that everybody went nuts for coming out of Toronto.
But how do you feel about it? What are your? Do you have a knot in your stomach? Are you hair on the back of your neck?
Yeah, for La La Land, I think I am.
Yes, yeah. I'll have to see. I don't know
because it looks like for 30 years I've thought if only Coppola could have made One from the Heart properly, and that looks like properly, and because I think he's a super talented director. So
yeah, Ryan Gosling, right?
Ryan Gosling in it with Emma Stone. But directed by what's his name? Whiplash.
The Whiplash
guy.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. All right.
Yeah. So anyway, let's plow into it. We got some television, we got some foreign and docs and music. Let's see. You know what? Here's a good thing to start with. This is what we're going to start with. Olive, we love the people at Olive. And Olive, of course, does all these great licensing deals, and they come out with a lot of great classics. Olive is doing it one better. We now have the Olive Signature line. And this is such a great idea because this is Olive shining a spotlight on films that really are just legendary classics. They want you to pay extra special attention to these particular Olive Blu-rays. And the first 2 are out. And what an amazing pair they are. The first one, Joan Crawford in Johnny Guitar, directed by the great Nicholas Ray, who, of course, did Rebel Without a Cause and King of Kings and many, many other really cool films. Kind of an unheralded auteur. This is mastered from a brand new 4K restoration, and they loaded it up with extras. That's the key thing about the signature line, the Olive signature line. They are really, really going to town on the extras, and the extras are just so great. It comes in. Both of these come in. The other one is that's the real killer. But both of these come with in a Blu-ray, a clear plastic Blu-ray keep case, in a very, very nice, high quality cardboard sleeve. And here's what you get as far as the extras, and it's gorgeous. Johnny Guitar is so gorgeous. If you don't know this movie, it's one of the better feminist westerns of the 1960s and 50s. And the 1950s and 60s were just loaded with all kinds of sort of feminist westerns. Yeah. But this is one of the better ones with Joan Crawford playing, a woman who's got to sort of hold her own against all the forces that are conspiring against her. And it's really, really great. Sterling Hayden, who my mother was almost a nanny for. Did you know that?
You told, yeah, I know.
That's when my parents were dating. My father talked her out of it. Like, you don't want to nanny that man's family. Anyway, Sterling Hayden is the title character, Johnny Guitar, and who he's a former gunfighter who has a thing for her, and it's a really, really, really great film. The extras here include a Martin Scorsese introduction, which is great, an audio commentary by film critic Jeff Andrew, which is also really, really good, and then a whole bunch of really, really interesting extras, including Johnny Guitar, a feminist western, ? Which is one of several conversations that they have with historians and film critics. And there's like a half dozen of these, and they're all really, really good. And then the most interesting thing here to me is My Friend, The American Friend, which is kind of a reminiscence on Nicholas Ray, which I thought was really, really touching and wonderful. And there's also Free Republic, Herbert J. Yates, and the story of Republic Pictures, who originally made it. Really great stuff, just terrific. So that's Johnny Guitar on Blu-ray from Olive Signature, and then
that was in particular a sort of precursor to some of the big television shows that featured
very much so.
The Big Valley
with Barbara Stanwyck,
the Virginian, those shows. They sort of came out of that whole.
They did. The feminist Western thing, the round table kind of discussion here is also really, really particularly good. And then here's the one that you have to get, even if you're not a Johnny Guitar fan. This thing is a must own. I'm talking about Olive Signature's release on Blu-ray of High Noon.
Fred Zinnemann.
Oh my gosh, it's just so good. Fred Zinnemann, and there's a great story about Gary. Gary Cooper is often undersold as an actor, and I've been one of those who's often undersold as an actor. He's a very stone-faced actor who talks quite sincerely and looks a little bit sincere, and then doesn't really act. But that's not the case. There's a great story where Zinnemann, who of course had done From Here to Eternity and many, many other great films, and Zinnemann was trying to get Gary Cooper to really kind of chew the scenery a little bit. You're walking
emote a little, Gary.
Really emote. Just you're walking down and they're coming for you, and you got to look like this and that and the other thing. I need more out of you. And normally an actor is supposed to say to their director, "Yes, sir," "Yes, ma'am," and I'll do what you're telling me. Yeah, not Gary Cooper. Gary Cooper said, "Just wait until you see the dailies." I'm like, all right, because it was right there, right on his face.
Yeah.
And sure enough, they saw the dailies, and he knew. He was such an experienced actor. He knew exactly that when that 75 or 85 millimeter lens was on that face, he knew what it was going to catch and what it was not going to catch, and he knew just how much acting to put out.
Yeah.
And sure enough, when Zinnemann saw those dailies and he saw that face up there on the screen, just giving him everything, and it was just so subdued and so restrained, and yet so powerful. He was right.
Yeah.
Son of a gun, he was right.
Sometimes it's not, Eli Wallach used to always go the other way.
Yeah.
To pick a guy. Eli, he would play every guy, Brian, every guy. But you're absolutely right. Sometimes you don't do anything, particularly when you're playing the hero.
It's good stuff. So High Noon, kind of the archetypal lone man standing up for the law against all odds Western. Anyway, it really terrific. This is also taken from a 4K restoration. It is gorgeous. It is just some of the most spectacular black and white photography of any Western on Blu-ray. It is beautiful beyond compare. 1952, super tight 85-minute film. Here's what you get as far as the extras. You get a thing called a ticking clock, which is Mark Goldblatt, who is an Oscar-winning editor, talking about the genius of this film's editing. And it is, if you are interested in film editing, you must watch this, because I am of the opinion, I think you probably are too, Tim, that we've lost a sense of the economy of editing. Movies are so heavily cut today that we've lost what movies like High Noon would do, where you hold on a shot and when a cut comes, it's powerful. It has, like, wow, it really draws your attention. It points your attention. It delivers something. There are more cuts in like the first 10 minutes of Transformers than in this whole movie.
And one of the statistics that I often use when I'm teaching classes about that shows you the sort of somewhat arbitrary nature of it, right? So if you go back to about 1950, the average duration of time that one would look at a scene on the screen before there would be a cut, not a change of scene, but a change of cut, just a cut within the scene, was about 5.5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Mm-hmm. That's how long before a cut would happen. Today? About less than 3 seconds.
Yeah, it's true.
1, 2, and cut.
Yeah, you're right.
1, 2, and cut.
and you go back to some of those musicals and even some of the screwball comedies of the 30s. There are shots that go on for 30, 40, 45, 50 seconds, and nobody cuts because people are just moving around.
Just as a matter of course. And it's a frames like a proscenium, and the actors are doing it. But even when they did cut, it was judicious, and it was particular, and it was specific.
It was meaningful.
You cannot tell me that has reduced down to about, like I said, less than 3 seconds. Arbitrarily. It can't be.
No.
That can't be, no.
So, and television has a lot to do with that. So anyway, you also have a little bit here on Stanley Kramer, a little bit on the blacklist, because screenwriter Walter Bernstein was a blacklisted writer. And then you have a little bit on the, there's a little visual essay thing here on the production of the film. Just sort of, it's like galleries, except it's like, galleries all put together in a featurette form. And then a wonderful essay by Nick James of Sight and Sound. So that also comes in the clear plastic Blu-ray keep case with the beautiful sleeve. So that's High Noon and Johnny Guitar. Absolutely beautiful. Must have in both cases. Tim, should we go into some music?
I suppose that we will. I was looking at this one in particular, hosted by Tyler Perry, The Passion, live.
Oh, yeah.
They've taken to doing these live things again. Yeah. When you and I were growing up, this was not particularly unusual. There was actually quite a lot of live television.
Yeah.
But they've taken it to doing it again over the last few years. I think I've seen Peter Pan. Yeah. They did a live Peter Pan.
Yep.
It seems like they did a live, I can't remember what it was, but this was one of them, The Passion, live. An interesting piece. I remember watching this. And mostly being impressed by these performers, because you had to be able to sing, you had to be able to act, you had to be able to hit your mark.
Yep.
When you're doing something like this. So anyway, Giancarlo Canella, Trisha Yearwood as Mary, Chris Dowdy. This is the Passion, Passion of the Christ, folks. Yep. That's what we mean by the Passion. It's nothing particularly unique on this. It is anamorphic widescreen. And 5.1 stereo surround. The music of this was really lovely. If you're into this kind of stuff, it can be pretty neat. I was looking to see who the director was on this project, but since it's a television project in live, they don't seem to have delineated the directors.
No.
You don't happen to see that on there. Yeah. Mad Tiger. A film by Jonathan Yee and Michael Hurlton. This is a neat thing. Basically, this is the story about this. These guys have had this punk band for years and years and years. They've been touring around the country. It's really more of a performance art kind of thing than it is actually a punk band. And then one of them suddenly decides that they want to quit. They don't want to do it anymore. They don't want to be in a band anymore. They don't want to do the performance art anymore. They want a life. And how it kind of forces all of them to grow up a little bit. It's sort of interesting. Their bonus commentary track with Jonathan Yee and Michael Hurlton. And let's see, anything else here? Oh, a couple of music videos and a couple of performance pieces from the movie itself there.
And I'm going to dig into some really interesting stuff here. Eat That Question, Frank Zappa in his own words. This was at Sundance in 2016. And this is basically just about as comprehensive and incisive a look at Frank Zappa as you're likely to ever get. Zappa is not an easy person to get under his skin and inside his head, as outspoken as he was. Just a really enigmatic figure for somebody who was so incredibly public. But you've got all kinds of footage, interviews, performances. Everything is all kind of gathered together to try to give you as close to a comprehensive portrait as you're probably ever going to get. I don't know if there'll ever be a comprehensive, definitive film on Zappa, but this is probably the best that exists right now. And it's 90 minutes. Good, solid documentary filmmaking. It's called Eat That Question, Frank Zappa in his own words. And, I'd say go in not expecting to see the man completely dissected and illuminated, but go in really just sort of expecting to enjoy being immersed in the sights and sounds of Frank Zappa's genius for about 90 minutes. And if you wind up asking more questions about the man when it's over than you had when you were going in, then I think it's probably still successful.
Yeah, Zappa's an interesting cultural figure who's had more purchase over the course of years than I thought he would have. I agree. I thought that might have all sort of faded away after a while. After this one here, Talent Has a Hunger. It's kind of like a Hoop Dreams sort of multi-year following of these very, very talented people as they engage this sort of artistic career. Now, instead of basketball, this is playing the cello. So you have this one cello teacher, a very well-known fellow named Paul Katz, right?
Yeah.
Famous cello teacher. We meet him when he first meets these children when they're 6, 7 years old, when they first pick up the bow. And we follow him for 7 years as he sort of sorts through these young people.
Yeah.
And the ones who have real talent sort of come to the fore. And then as he helps them craft their talent, nurture their love for the cello, for music in general, but for the cello specifically over the next several years, the ups and the downs.
Yeah.
Now, these are obviously people that have the potential to be, world-class level, Jascha Heifetz level performance.
Yeah.
So it's a really, really interesting and engaging sort of thing. There's an interview with the director on here, as well as an interview with Mr. Katz.
Very nice. Scarred but Smarter, Life and Times of Driving and Crying. If that doesn't mean anything to you, it's no surprise, because it didn't mean anything to me either. The guy who directed this, Eric von Hassler, did this as kind of a passion project, a labor of love, because he is just infatuated and in love with the band Driving and Crying. And mainly because they just never became famous. Nobody ever had heard of them outside of his little circle, I guess. And so he basically undertakes a documentary to look into them, what happened to them, kind of as a tribute to them, and winds up getting a really, really interesting story that in many respects I think transcends the band and the music. It's kind of like a 30 years in the making of story, but it really is just it is really, really intriguing, and especially because it's such a personal film. So that's called Scarred but Smarter, Life and Times of Driving and Crying. And a lot of really interesting people interviewed in here, including Ty Pennington, believe it or not.
Really, Ty Pennington? Enter the Fawn. This is an interesting documentary.
Oh, that's just a beautiful movie.
This is a young man with cerebral palsy.
Yeah.
A famous choreographer.
Yeah.
They engage each other, and she deigns to teach him how to dance. And he basically
overcomes the cerebral palsy. I mean, as much as you were able to. It's extraordinary.
Despite the fact that she is not a medically trained, physical therapist, I guess it would be, or something like that.
What I love about this is that it gets not just into the beauty of dance and choreography and what it does for your soul and what it is as an artistic expression, but it suggests that there are so many things that may have medicinal application in our culture that have nothing to do with medicine. That we don't think outside the box often enough. There was a doc, and I forget the name of it, but there was a doc that I reviewed for Film Week 2-3 years ago about a guy who treats dementia and Alzheimer's patients with music.
Music of the heart.
Music of the heart. That was it.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. He puts together these custom mixes of music from the era in which they grew up, based on what friends and relatives tell him. And that triggers things in their minds. But the most dreadful thing about that was when he said, you know what, I can get Medicare and insurance companies to pay for more drugs than you can possibly comprehend, but they won't pay for an iPod.
They will not pay for music
because they don't.
Yeah,
they won't.
There's no connection being made.
It's cheaper for me to get a little like $85 iPod and load it up with a sound mix than it is to buy just 1 month of drugs.
Yeah, whatever drugs, which would turn these people into zombies as opposed to giving them sort of like fuller lives.
Yeah.
So the same kind of thing here. DVD extras, Kennedy Center interview with both the performers Tamara and Greg, and a in-depth look at this approach of, I suppose you would call it music therapy or dance therapy. Dance therapy, more like dance therapy.
The Beach Boys, Pet Sounds on Blu-ray. This is from the Classic Albums line that is being released by Eagle Vision. And it's terrific. I mean, it's just. I mean, you don't need me to recommend the Beach Boys or even Pet Sounds, which is one of their just fantastic albums that was made in 1965. And it's just absolutely legendary, great music from the era, one of the great bands of all time. There's a whole bunch of interviews on here, about half an hour worth of additional interviews. And it's great. It's on Blu-ray. It's classic. It's legendary. It's wonderful. It is classic albums on Blu-ray. The Beach Boys, Pet Sounds from Eagle Vision, and it's just great. Lots of great stuff.
Have they already put out, have you guys already talked about Love and Mercy?
The movie?
The Paul Dano movie.
Oh, yeah.
Because that record is the record. That's the one. Central
that's
record.
Right. That's right.
Inside that movie.
Yeah, that's the one where they kind of break the system. They want to go outside the box and really go crazy.
Right, with those horses in the...
It's just crazy stuff. And then, let's see, we got Justin Hayward live in concert at the Capitol Theater with a bonus music video on here, The Wind of Heaven. Justin Hayward is primarily known as the guy behind Moody Blues, and I am, of course, a huge Moody Blues fan, so I am a big Justin Hayward fan. And this is wonderful. This is not the Moody Blues, but he still does a lot of Moody Blues stuff on here. Your Wildest Dreams, and it's just a lot of fun. It's really, really a lot of fun. And the most bonus music video is for The Wind of Heaven, which is also really wonderful. So if you are a Justin Hayward fan or Moody Blues fan, you got to check this out. It's a lot of fun. It's good.
I got Toto
yes.
over here, Light of Montreux, 1991. This is particularly interesting because this is the one little moment when the band was configured slightly differently than the band had been before or after.
Yeah.
So you have Steve Lukather, Dave. Is it Patrick? I think it is.
Yeah.
Jeff Porcario playing bass, and Jeff Porcario playing bass, and his brother Mike playing drums, and his brother Mike playing drums. So the band is just shaped that way for a short period of time. And then they put out another album the next year. I think the King of Desire album was the one that they put out in 1992. So anyway, this is a live show in 1991 featuring this particular incarnation of the band, which is a unique incarnation of the band, along with a lot of pretty great songs on there. Anyway, Toto, we're going to tell you, I always just love Toto.
I love Toto.
Can't go wrong.
Rosanna, Africa, all that stuff. I mean, Rosanna Arquette immortalized in a song.
Yeah.
It's great. And they did the score to David Lynch's Dune, so you got to love it. And then the last two on the music front, Pete Townshend's Deep End, Face the Face. This is a Rock Palast performance, and this is a DVD and CD combo set from Eagle Vision. All the Rock Palast live stuff is just always terrific. Gotta love it. And he does some Who stuff, and he does some of his own stuff. Pinball Wizard, Won't Get Fooled Again, Slit Skirts, I Put a Spell on You, Sea Refuses No River. I mean, it's all here. It's just great. One of the great all-time performers and songwriters. He's just really, really great. And the nice thing here is that he puts together an interesting band too. Dave Gilmour shows up here as well, so it's a little bit of the Who meets Pink Floyd for a moment. This was recorded 1986 on my birthday.
Oh, really?
At Cannes.
Oh!
So, yeah, it's kind of weird. This is because what's weird is that I remember my birthday in 1986 very well. I was living in France, and I was in Valence, and I'm thinking, wow. So when I was celebrating my birthday in Valence, this was being recorded down south.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. So I'm a little bit connected to that. And then Scorpions live in Munich, 2012 on Blu-ray. The Scorpions. I like about 3 Scorpion songs, the ones that everybody else likes.
You know, about the hair.
Rock Me Like the Hurricane, Rock You Like a Hurricane, and there's only 3 that I really like that I think that anybody likes. But anyway, they're still fun because they just don't take themselves seriously, and especially when they're performing for a German audience. There's nothing like German headbangers. They're so funny. This is really a lot of fun. It's just the fire and the whole 80s hair band sense of excess that kind of followed Kiss. It's sort of at that moment when Kiss morphed into Motley Crue and all the rest of that stuff. It's a lot of fun. So Scorpions live in Munich, 2012. All right, we're going to move into some television now. Let's do a little bit of TV.
I got Johnny Carson over here. The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson, the Vault series, 6 DVD set. Excuse me, part of the Archive Classics, right? This particular box here features performances, or appearances, we should say, from Richard Pryor, Rodney Dangerfield, Buddy Hackett, James Gardner, and Jack Palance, among others, right? As you know, Wade, there's a series, there's a network called the CBS Decades Network, which is one of the sort of like sub-channels of all the networks have them, right?
Sure.
So, you watch these channels, and every television show that you and I grew up watching comes on. Now, they're very particular in the way they select and choose what they're going to put on these shows. You know, I've been into the Dick Cavett show a lot lately.
I love Dick Cavett.
It was just fantastic. There's so many incarnations of that, right?
Yeah.
The Johnny Carson show, though, that's one where it almost makes no era what they go to, what show they pick.
Yeah.
It's nothing but money.
Yeah.
On the Johnny Carson show down the line. Doesn't mean you just stick your hand in the vault, pull one out, look at the list, and it's just going to be money.
Because Johnny is such a rare figure, and this is the 6 DVD set that they sent us here. There's like a 2 DVD and a 4 and a 12. They're all they're all different configurations of this depending on what your budget is. But Time Life is just really I don't even know how you curate this. You really do. You just sort of throw a dart and whatever it hits, you just throw it on there. It's great stuff. What is so fascinating about Johnny is that and I don't want to take anything away from Jay Leno, who I think is terrific, or from any of the others who've sort of succeeded. I mean, not Conan or Arsenio or Jimmy Fallon or Jimmy Kimmel. I mean, all the rest of them. Everybody who's ever stepped into those late night shoes.
Yeah.
Letterman, obviously. They all had their own thing that they did, but they were all also doing something that Johnny pioneered, which is that you're letting the person plug their show, but at the same time, Johnny understood that it's performance art. Mm-hmm. It's not about the plug. It's about using the plug as an excuse to entertain people who aren't yet ready to go to bed. Mm-hmm. And that's a very different thing from those afternoon talk shows like Merv,
Mike Douglas, Dick Cavett for that matter,
John Davidson, Dinah, right? Remember there was that era where you had afternoon talk shows, which we kind of get a little bit now with Ellen. Ellen's a little bit in the and so was Rosie.
Mm-hmm. They're a little bit more concerned with pop culture. They're a little bit more concerned with whatever it is that person is there to sell, what movie they're in, what book they're doing. Sometimes they're political issues. I mean, you could see Dick Cavett show your Marlon Brando talking about the Native Americans.
Yeah, sure.
75 minutes. Johnny didn't do that.
Johnny was not all about that. Johnny was about you could literally have watched an episode of The Tonight Show where Johnny Carson was talking to whoever it is, Bette Midler, about some movie. And a week later, you would not remember the movie she was plugging, but you would remember some shtick from that. I remember specifically Robin Williams, God rest his soul, was on The Tonight Show. I don't remember what he was plugging. No, I don't have the slightest idea what he was plugging, but I still remember. This was back before they did the labs, the wireless lavalier microphones, right, where they had a boom. There was still a boom. There was a boom guy who was, holding a boom microphone like on a long,
with the crane with the arm,
and the arm, and he was holding it over, and you turn it from Johnny and back to Robin Williams, and you would never know that because it was always off camera. But Robin Williams of course, had to make a do of it, and he looked up at it and he said, "I feel like Flipper, arr, arr, arr," and he started barking at it like it was somebody holding a fish over him. And the camera pulls back, and you see the boom, and you see Robin Williams, and Johnny loved it. He loved it because that's what he wanted on the show. Yeah. He wanted you to do something completely unhinged that would engage the audience, engage viewers, and make people at home feel like this was worth staying up for.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
It was hey, if Johnny called you over, that was the old thing.
That was it for the stand. So many comics owe their careers to him.
And if you got that nod from Johnny to come sit down, Jerry Seinfeld, Jay Leno, for that matter. I mean, we can go through the list.
No,
6 DVD sets.
It's great. Yeah, 12 shows as they originally aired, including commercials. It's really, really great stuff. So, all from the 1970s. It's a lot of fun. Vincent Price on here, doing a cooking thing. Johnny getting a massage from Miss Sweden. It's really, really great stuff.
Banshee is a series that I didn't watch actually when it's on. This is the final season. 4 seasons of Banshee ran. Yeah. I understand it's about an ex-con. A guy goes back to a town, pretends to be the sheriff. He's trying to find a serial killer. Is what he's basically trying to do. Lasted 4 seasons. Don't know a whole lot about it. This final season DVD set includes a cast retrospective that includes all the stars of the show. And let's see, what else do we have here? Oh, audio commentaries and deleted scenes.
Beautiful.
So I don't know. Did you know anything about this series? Was it one that you followed?
We've covered it a little bit in the past. I mean, it's one of those HBO shows that I get the sense didn't really. People like it. It did well for HBO, as all their shows seem to, but it never really kind of caught
fire. Yeah.
Never caught fire the way they wanted it to.
Constantine, which was the show that I did in fact watch from DC. This is a Blu-ray, loosely based on the Constantine that we think of from
Keanu Reeves.
From Keanu Reeves and the graphic novel series. Fallen Angel, the whole thing. Going out to find it. I don't know. Watched it for a season or so while it was on. I thought it was okay. Did okay. There were 2 or 3 incarnations of these sort of shows. There's one called Luther now that's running that sort of lives in the same space as all of this. Anyway, this has a Q&A with the cast and creators of the show and a DC Comics night at Comic-Con 2014. So if you were at Comic-Con in 2014, you might show up on this DVD Blu-ray. If somebody asked you to sign a release and you were there, it might be for this.
Pretty cool.
On Blu-ray.
Pretty cool.
50th. I'm going to let you talk about this one mostly, Wade. 50th anniversary.
This is the 50th anniversary deluxe edition. Charlie Brown's All Stars. The Peanuts. I have to be honest. I kind of wish that Warner Brothers would get their act together with the Peanuts specials and movies released on DVD and Blu-ray, because it's really been a hodgepodge, and it's been very, very haphazard. And they've come out with certain television specials, and then they would come out with compilations from the 70s and 80s, and then they would come out with the movies on Blu-ray, and then they come out with the classic holiday specials on Blu-ray. And everyone I know who started buying that stuff kind of gave up at a certain point because all these things overlapped. They would be like, well, I got the 70s, which had the thing that I already had, but then I got the holiday thing, which had some of the stuff that was in the 70s, but not all of it, and then some other stuff that I didn't have. And you're not really double dipping; you're sort of half dipping over and over and over again. And there's a lot of repetition, and nobody seems to be really focused on making sure that let's do this. Let's make a list of everything Peanuts, everything, beginning to end, and let's do this. Let's release it all on Blu-ray. Comprehensive, complete Peanuts. Yeah. Just do that. Do that. Yeah. Be done with it. I don't know why they don't do that. So anyway, Charlie Brown's All Stars, not the best thing that they've ever done. This also features a bonus special, Charlie Brown Celebration. Also not spectacular. This is fine. I don't know that this necessarily warrants being given its own standalone release. That's why I think something like this really would be better in a box set with everything else, and especially in Blu-ray, not just DVD. So I look at this, I think, well, unless you are crazy about Charlie Brown's All Stars and Charlie Brown's Celebration, unless you really feel like these are the ones that just sing to you, I would hold off. I really wouldn't.
Well, I've got the final season of Penny Dreadful here. I got to tell you, I loved Penny Dreadful except for this final season.
Really?
Which was, it was a really, really solid series.
Have not gotten to the final season.
And the show is such a very beautifully done show. Very
it is.
Not a whole lot going on. Timothy Dalton, of course, there's Sir Malcolm Murray, Miss Peregrine, what's her name? Who playing Vanessa Ives in the show, and of course you've got
Eva Green,
Dr. and Josh Hartnett, probably doing some of the best work of his career as an actor. They tried to make Josh Hartnett a movie star for a long time. They paired him with people. They put him in these movies, tried to make him a movie star. Didn't quite take as a movie star. Does excellent work as a sort of Wolfman sort of figure. Here, sort of a period piece. Final season of Penny Dreadful, which I was looking forward to greatly toward the end of the last season. Really disappointing final season. The series comes to the United States, the sort of Southwest, West Studi enters the series as a sort of Native American character, and they follow him here, and it just all sort of unravels. That's always so disappointing. When a series just unravels, and it's the mark of a series that didn't have its own end in mind, of a series where the creators didn't have an end for that series in mind. This series probably wanted to go another 2 or 3 seasons, but when it sort of lost steam, they just sort of allowed it to peter out, which is just disappointing. You don't ever want to end that way. In any case, Penny Dreadful, final season. You got a few things here, including character profiles for all of the sort of main characters of the show, and some costume stuff. I don't know. A disappointing end to a popular show that I kind of liked for a while.
Too bad. Here's something that I just think is weird and shameless, and I totally do not understand what the point of this is. So I understand that they've had a hard time selling I Love Lucy on Blu-ray. I get it. There's a few seasons on Blu-ray, and they haven't released the whole thing. Maybe if you release a complete I Love Lucy on Blu-ray box set, everything will sort out. That Paramount needs to do that. Just buck up and do it and put it out there, and it'll sell. But instead, they're doing stuff like this. On DVD, the I Love Lucy Superstar Special #1. And Superstar Special is all in Superman lettering. And here's what this is. And there's a little banner across the top that says, colorized for kids of all ages. Now, to me, that's insulting. That basically says children don't like black and white, so we've gone ahead and we've colorized some I Love Lucy so that children will not be bored by that awful, ugly black and white. I'm sorry, I was a child, and I grew up with a 19-inch black and white television, and that's how I watched everything. Including I Love Lucy. Yeah. And I fell in love with it. There's no reason why children should not be able to enjoy Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton today.
Exactly, because you just dismissed a whole grand of all kinds of entertainment, cinema, television, everything from an entire year. If it all has to be color. Hey, I remember when it was Old Man Turner, Ted Turner.
Yeah. He's the one that
acquired
started
that MGM library and again, that technology and started doing all that kind of stuff.
Awful. Yeah. Caught hell for it, too. Yeah. Well, and colorizing It's a Wonderful Life. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Anyway, here's what they've done. This makes no sense. So they take 2 random episodes of I Love Lucy, L.A. at Last from 1955 and Lucy and Superman from 1957, and they put both black and white and colorized versions of both of them on here. I presume the Superman episode is colorized because somebody thought, we can make the Superman outfit that Lucy wears out when she's with the pigeons on the ledge. We'll make it look like an actual we'll put the blue and the S and the red S and the whatever. It's terrible. The colorization still is ugly. It hasn't gotten any better in the last 20 years. It's an ugly process, and I don't see the point of this. It is literally 2 random episodes that are not necessarily even the funniest I Love Lucy episodes. They have nothing to do with each other, and they're thrown together in a colorized version and a black and white version, presumably for kids. This is an orphan DVD. I can't recommend this to anybody. It's a terrible idea. Put the whole series out on Blu-ray, please. Would you? Please. Okay, Tim, let's hit a few new movies. There's a whole lot of new stuff this week. And we're a little early, so there's a lot of stuff that we do not yet have that we're going to have to cover on a belated week. But here's an interesting one. This is from Well Go, and this is on DVD, and I really enjoyed this. Even though it is something I've seen many, many, many times, it doesn't really do anything particularly original. It's one of those inspirational coach/teacher movies. and set in the world of basketball like we haven't seen a million of those before. But this is the true story of Don Meyer, the basketball coach Don Meyer, who surpassed Bobby Knight to become the winningest NCAA basketball coach after being committed to a wheelchair after an accident.
Oh.
Coach in amazing coach from a wheelchair. The movie's called My Many Sons, and
it's a
true story.
Hoosiers. He was the Hoosier coach.
Not the Hoosier coach. No, he surpassed Bobby Knight as the winningest.
But he wasn't. Okay, I got.
He was not the Hoosier coach.
Okay.
So really an amazing collegiate coach, played beautifully by Judge Reinhold, who we have not seen in a million years. That's Judge Reinhold, of course, from many great films, but mostly from Beverly Hills Cop.
Yeah.
And he's completely bald now. He's completely grown into this part, and he's still a great actor. And it's a very, very touching story. I'm surprised this did not get more exposure as a theatrical release, but it is still really, really good.
I gotta tell you, the cast, Judge Reinhold is the star of that film, literally.
Yeah, he is. There's nobody else here.
Nobody else in that film. Lots of actors whom we have never heard of.
Yeah, very true.
Is what I mean by nobody else in the film. Aaron Paul, Lena Headey, and Sean Bean, all big stars.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And a film called Kingsclave. Right?
Yeah.
Final Fantasy, what is that, 15?
I have tried. I can't watch this stuff.
I don't even know this adaptation of
Final Fantasy,
a Japanese.
Yeah, Final Fantasy is like it made its way momentarily into the movies, and it's primarily.
I remember the animated. It was like a 3D animated thing, right?
It was one of the earliest photorealistic CGI animated things, but it was incomprehensible, and somehow we've gotten down to 15 of these things. I'm kind of.
I can only imagine that they are extremely popular with the sort of original
the gamer crowd.
Kind of yeah. In any case, HD Ultraviolet special features out the yin yang on this thing. Way too more for me than
there's nothing that either of us are going to say about this that is going to dissuade fans from buying it. Probably nothing we have to say that'll make anybody buy it who isn't a fan.
Final Fantasy King's Conclave 15. There you go.
Yeah. What happened between 1 and 15? I have no idea. The Purge election year.
Yeah.
It's the Purge.
Yeah.
What do you want?
Isn't it funny how quickly those wore out? The very first one, an interesting sort of notion.
It was.
It's, I think we're looking at 3 of those at this point.
The third one, I believe. Yeah.
And it's really interesting how quickly the notion inside the just went away. And I just didn't care about them at all.
No.
After the first one, I'm like, you had a good idea. You made a mediocre movie from it. Ethan Hawke kind of holds that movie up. The first one.
Yeah.
After that, you've blown it.
Frank Grillo here is, it's 2 years later, and they still have this 12-hour, mayhem period that defines the premise of the film, except this time it comes right before a presidential election, which is obviously meant to exploit the fact that we're in a presidential year. Kind of shameless, doesn't really make a difference. It's not very good. It just retreads everything you've seen previously. And I don't really know what there is to recommend this, but it's out there. Blu-ray, DVD, and Ultraviolet, all on the same set.
Swiss Army Man. I got to tell you, this was one of those movies. Paul Dano and Daniel Radcliffe, Harry Potter. This is one of those movies when it came out. It was one of those little indie darling movies.
Yeah.
Everybody was loving this movie.
Sundance. You got a lot of attention.
All that kind of stuff. Yeah, I'm looking at this movie, and you've said this many times about many movies. It was like, man, that movie looks like it's been workshopped to death at Sunday work. You could see it, right?
Yeah.
And sure enough, you go look it up, and sure enough, it's been workshopped to death. And it's this extremely high concept movie. Paul Dano and Daniel Radcliffe. Effectively, Daniel Radcliffe is a corpse. Is playing a corpse that Paul Dano finds on an island, and then we sort of slip off into a never world, never land that may or may not mostly be inside Paul Dano's head. all of the stuff that sort of happens in the movie next. And it strikes itself as extremely insightful about the ways of the world and the way man and people are all sort of caught up in our own little lives and things that don't matter and all that kind of stuff. You know what? This is what bugs me about these movies. Young people, I'm speaking specifically to you now when you get ready to make a movie. Whatever that thought is that's in your head that occurs to you as something that you've noticed about the world and humanity and the way it works and that we've all missed and we just don't quite get, whatever that is, you're wrong. We do get it. We understand it. We don't give a damn about it. You are not special, and neither is your idea, and neither is this movie. Nevertheless, it is on DVD now, along with a few special features, some deleted scenes, Q&A with the filmmakers, a behind-the-scenes thing, and another little featurette, and an audio commentary track, Swiss Army Man, on Blu-ray.
So here we got another Blu-ray and digital HD ultraviolet combo set for a movie called Joshi. This is another Sundance film. This was at Sundance this year.
I saw that one for the show, too.
Here's the thing. Now, I like Thomas Middleditch as an actor. He's the star of this thing. He's a mid-level actor. You've seen him in a lot of stuff. He always plays kind of the timid, milk-toasty guy, right? He's the nerd. He's like one of those archetypal nerd actors.
Yeah.
Like if you need somebody,
there are 2 or 3 of those guys now, and to be honest with you, sometimes I get them confused.
They are the sons of Don Knotts.
Yeah,
they are all
kind
trying
of skinny with the big head.
They're all trying to be Don Knotts. I was just watching this scene in It's a Mad World the other night where Phil Silvers is in the car with Don Knotts, and he basically steals the car from him because he tells him, "Oh, you got there after us." And Don Knotts is doing that thing where he starts getting bug-eyed and jumping like a jumping bean. He doesn't know which direction to go. He's looking over every shoulder. He's going nuts. Nobody does that better than Don Knotts. All these people.
Did it all through it. Andy Griffith Show is fantastic.
Anyway, so the deal here, this guy played by Joshi, played by Thomas Middleditch, he was he's supposed to get married. Wedding's called off, so he and his buddies go on the bachelor party weekend anyway, and it turns into it's just all.
And this is a through line. This is sort of a dark thing that's going on. It's not really so much a secret in the context of the film. You figure it out in the first 5 minutes of the film. And that notion, that darker little notion that's going on is interesting. But at the end of the day, it's still just Bachelor Party with Tom Hanks. And remember Bachelor Party?
A little bit more angst.
Adrian's a little bit more angst.
A little bit more angst. It kind of, it's like... what are the Vegas things?
Whatever happens in Vegas. Yeah.
Anyway, so Jenny Slate is in this. I like Jenny Slate. She's fun. A few other actors: Nick Kroll, Brett Gelman, Alex Ross Perry. They're all sort of decent actors. But on balance, I don't really see a point for this film, to be honest.
Those kind of
audio commentary with Middleditch along with with writer director Jeff Baiana and their producer. It's fine.
I'm starting to wonder, and maybe it has something simply to do with our place on the sort of human timeline of things.
Yeah.
Here we are, film critics, our age. We've been doing this for a while. We've seen all these movies. I'm starting to think that it's just not possible for them to make, young filmmakers to make some new clever film that they think is clever.
Yeah.
I don't think it's possible for them to do that for you and me.
It might not
Maybe for those kids their age, they can do that for each other.
Yeah.
But if they do that, I just get pissy. Because what do you think, kid? Nobody's ever thought of that before. Grow up.
Yeah.
Anyway, now I'm being an old bastard. City of Gold, which is a neat film about Jonathan Gold, or about Jonathan Gold's job. Jonathan Gold is a LA Times food critic. He's a food critic, a Pulitzer Prize-winning food critic. And this film follows him as he does his job, which is eating. Wandering around with a spoon and a fork and a knife, eating, and then writing about eating.
I like that.
Why did we pick film criticism and not food criticism?
I don't know.
We just jacked it completely.
I know.
Oh, whatever. I'd be a bigger, fatter bastard than I am now.
Wild Oats, Shirley MacLaine, Jessica Lange. That's a strange pairing because they could be mother and daughter, but I guess they figure they can get away with being really good friends. This is one of those movies that's made for people of a certain age, a little bit like Marigold Hotel, and there's a lot of these now that are sort of aimed at filmgoers who are in their 60s and 70s and who don't really want to sit around and do social media at home. The idea here is that you have a couple of I won't get into the details of how this happens, but there is a financial let's say there's an insurance mistake in somebody's favor. Shirley MacLaine has lost her husband. There's a life insurance mistake in her favor. And then she and Jessica Lange decide to sort of take the extra cash and go party and go have a good time. And, of course, they meet, some gentlemen when they're off on their party, one of whom is Billy Connolly. I won't tell you anything else about it. I love Billy Connolly to death. But he's not
Brown.
It's not really well served here. And then, of course, there is unfortunately a little caper aspect to this, which is, hey, the insurance company just figures out somebody just took it. We need to go find the lady. I don't know. It all feels very contrived. It's well-meaning. It's not terribly well done, which is disappointing. It's directed by Andy Tennant, who did While You Were Sleeping, and has done a number of really fine films in the past, but seems to have lost a little bit during the interim. So it's okay if you love Shirley MacLaine and Jessica Lange. Demi Moore shows up in as a daughter in this, which is kind of a weird thing. Billy Connolly, it's okay, it's fine, it's passable for people who like these actors.
I'm thinking to myself, Demi Moore could be Jessica Lange's daughter. Jessica Lange could be Shirley MacLaine's daughter. all of these women were women that I had the hots for
at some
point in my life. So very often when I was a child, but nevertheless, it's all still very disturbing. I got one here. Want to knock this one off?
Yeah, let's do it.
Homestretch. This is actually a fairly powerful documentary that follows these 6 homeless children on the streets of Chicago through a long winter as they try with all their heart and soul to stay in school and to graduate and to try to figure out some sort of lives for themselves. So we have these filmmakers following these kids. I get a little torn about these things sometimes. When I see a situation like that, and then I see filmmakers, and the filmmakers are making a film about it, I always want to chastise the filmmakers, right? I always want to say to the filmmakers, stop, put that damn camera down, and go take care of those children, particularly in an instance like this. These are fairly young kids, right? But, they're documentarians. They're making a film. That is what they're doing. This is a really heart-wrenching film, and particularly if we think about some of the things that are going on in the city of Chicago now with respect to the crime wave and shootings in the street and things like that, to see these 6 kids, homeless kids, fighting every way they can, trying to figure out everything they can, trying to figure out how to do their homework in a homeless shelter, trying to figure out how to do their homework in the backseat of a car, trying to figure out how to stay in class and get to school every day, no matter where it is that they went to sleep that night before, at a friend's house, at some relative's house.
Yeah.
But they and you know what? They do it. They do it.
Wow.
I saw this one back for the show. It's an absolutely fantastic film. And it just, I don't know, it evoked an empathy in me that I have a hard time putting words around, except what I just did.
Laid in America with Casper Lee and KSI. Is that his name? KSI?
KSI. Yeah.
Okay. I am not down with these kids. Just don't know the scene. So here's the deal. This is your
Are we Disney kids? Are we Nickelodeon kids?
I don't know.
What kind of kids?
Don't know. They're I guess I'm supposed to know who they are. So Casper Lee and KSI play a couple of kids. This is your standard lose your virginity movie about some kids trying to lose their virginity. Think, super bad, except with kids who are not as nerdy and more attractive.
Yeah.
This has been told a million times, and then, of course, everything goes wrong. It kind of turns into like a teen version of The Hangover.
Yeah.
Because they got to get invited to this house party in order to be cool enough to get it done, and they're not invited. And it just gets very silly and lame and horrible. This is on Blu-ray. It's Universal. There's only one featurette on here. I think they know that they have a very limited audience in this. The only thing that makes this unique is that this mismatched pair of buddies, one of them's white, one of them's black. So we've moved this genre.
Though they somehow have the same hair.
Yeah. Yeah, right? Same hairstyle.
Same hairstyle. Basically do that. That's really... So, but there you go. So is that... sincerely.
Yeah.
Is that me and you? Are we doing that? Are we depriving these children of having their basically Porkies? I look at that, I'm thinking Porkies. I'm thinking, whatever it would have been for me and you.
Yeah.
Are we just a couple of old curmudgeons who are denying them that? Or does that movie suck as bad as it sucks?
It sucks.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is. All right, we're going to finish up on some docs here, docs and foreign films, if we can get to it. But I want to go through some listener mail really quickly first. Jason Vargo wrote and said, "You're being too hard on the Superstore, Wade. You're absolutely right to say take your criticism with a bit of salt. It has heart, genuine laughs, lots of outrageous characters." I said outrageous, not offensive or crude. "I'd be okay with this falling into a family show, provided the kids are 10 years or older. Can't say the same about a lot of other TV comedies." I think they're valid points, and what I wrote him back, I said, workplace comedies. I'm still, I guess, I'm a curmudgeon. I like the old workplace comedies that were 3-camera shows: WKRP, Cheers, Taxi.
Oh, we talked even Barney Miller.
Yeah, Barney Miller. I will keep an open mind as future seasons come out, but I just I want my workplace comedies on a soundstage with a live audience. That's what I want. And at this point, I should also mention we have had some emails over the last number of weeks and months asking about the intro music that we use, because it's been a while since we've actually plugged that, and asking us what it is. Great question. The intro music is from an LA-based punk band called Ball and Chain. The name of the track is How Hard I Try. They used to perform around town. They're friends of ours. And they have not performed this in quite a while because, they're all kind of doing other things. But I have informed them of the interest and that they should make their tracks available somewhere in some format.
SoundCloud, baby, SoundCloud.
SoundCloud, something, somewhere. So there is that as well. Let's see here. Kevin Lower, who's given us many fine intros, said, figured I would send this while you guys both have control of the podcast. I'm going to admit that I don't have a problem with Zack Snyder. I'm happy he's directing the Justice League movies. I probably like more of his movies than disliked. I liked 300, Watchmen, never saw Ga'Hoole, hated Sucker Punch, loved Man of Steel, liked Batman vs. Superman. For me, I like variety. I'm growing very tired of the sameness of the Marvel movies, and we've already had Nolan's fantastic Batman movies. Give me the comic book action of Snyder. Like I said, I like Batman vs. Superman. Tons of issues. Saw it twice. First time was just okay. Second time, much better, which I actually agree with, to be honest. I saw it a second time and did think it was a little better. But a lot more light comedy would go a long way. Keep it gritty. Marvel is doing their lighthearted thing. I much prefer DC. Keep it dark. So we read this now as the Wonder Woman and Justice League films are starting to leak more and more information.
Yeah.
And apparently are going less dark. So my question to you, Tim Cogshell, do you think that DC is making the right choice? We all have problems with the Zack Snyder approach.
And I still do.
But is it because it's too dark? Is it going to be remedied by putting more jokes in the film, taking a lighter touch? Or is it something else about his approach that is problematic?
The problematic thing in all Zack Snyder's films is Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder, in fact, makes Zack Snyder films. Here's the thing. When it is, in fact, just a Zack Snyder film, that's fine. That's your style. The 300, for instance.
Yeah.
I don't really care about any of that as applies to that. But when it comes to the truly iconic films, Marvel, DC, Universe films, all right? Yeah. These films come with a style of their own, an imprimatur of their own, a culture of their own. I don't need Zack Snyder's culture overlaid. Christopher Nolan didn't do that.
No.
He didn't do that.
No.
You don't look at the Christopher Nolan Batman films and think, oh, those are Christopher Nolan films. Those are Christopher Nolan's Batman films.
Yeah.
In the same way that Tim Burton's Batman film was Tim Burton's Batman film. But it's not this thing that he took away from the audience.
It's true.
Zack Snyder does that. Every Zack Snyder film will have a Zack Snyder a style to them, and they will ultimately be about the thing that Zack Snyder wants them to be about. And Zack Snyder doesn't really care what the actual film is about.
Zack Snyder's movies are all strike a pose and be wet and shiny.
Yeah,
that's what it is to me. Everybody strikes a pose and they're wet and shiny.
Wet down. Do that vignette.
Yeah.
And abs. Yeah. Lots of abs.
Yeah.
And Zack Snyder's film. So that's the problem.
And Joe Nocella, longtime listener, he corrects us, Tim. We said that Beauty and the Beast was the only animated film ever nominated for Best Picture. He reminds us that Up was also nominated for Best Picture, which is correct. I had forgotten that, and of course, I think the reason we forgot that was because that was one of those 10 nominee years.
Yeah.
And when they have more than so many
5.
nominees, it's just we're still only in our minds counting the top 5.
Yeah, and then everything else goes away.
Yeah, the others all go away.
But indeed, he's right.
Yep, absolutely. So well done, Joe. Good catch. Absolutely good catch. All right, you want to email us or send us Vox boxes, do so at gods@digigods.com. Gods@digigods.com is where you send everything to us. Hate mail included. We love it. Send it all. We're all down with it. More docs.
I got a couple of docs over here. This one, just because I think it's neat, it's called Back in Time. This documentary by Jason Aaron. All right, so it's the, I think, 30-year anniversary of Back to the Future.
Yep.
And which is just, that makes me a little bit dizzy as I sit here thinking of this 30 years anniversary of Back to the Future. So anyway, he's made a really neat documentary, both about that film. It took him 2 years to make this film. 2 years worth of filming to make this film. And sure, this is a fan film. This is a film made by a fan who's a fan of these things and these people. All the principals appear in this documentary. Michael J., of course, and Leah Thompson, and Bob Zemeckis. They all appear in the film. Christopher Lloyd. But what this film really does is talk about the cultural impact of that film, of the Back to the Future films, particularly the first one. And I got to tell you, I agree completely.
Yeah.
I agree. That film really did have an outsized cultural impact for a film that was a studio film and a big studio film. That was interesting and funny and certainly exciting and all of that kind of stuff. But nevertheless, I think it sort of planted this notion in the greater zeitgeist of what it would mean to go back to the future and then forward into the future and the things that used to be and the things that were and how they all tie together. It was just a really, really neat movie that has an outside sort of place in the world. That movie's only 95 minutes long.
I did not realize
that's
that.
Insane.
That's crazy.
That's insane. Anyway, this is a documentary called Back in Time.
It's political season, so everybody's out there jockeying for their people. The Hunting of the President Redux, based on the New York Times bestseller, The 25-Year Conspiracy to Destroy Bill and Hillary Clinton. We got a lot of documentaries that are sort of anti-Clinton and anti-Trump, and we got them that are pro-Clinton and pro-Trump, and we're going to get a lot more. Anyway, this one is very much on the Hillary side because it is co-directed and co-produced and co-written by Harry Thomason, who is, of course, the husband of Linda Bloodworth Thomason, television producer and writer, and very, very good friends of the Clintons. So this is essentially his documentary saying, "Stop picking on my friends." And you know what? I mean, it's not.
They made that pivotal documentary, or a profile, I guess we might call it, for the Bill Clinton inauguration way back 92.
Exactly.
The Bloodworth Thomasons produced that.
They did. They also produced the when Bill accepted his second nomination. That walking out, remember there was when they put the camera on him as he walked out, it was low and it was dollying backwards, and there was they did that too. Yeah. So I mean, it's fuel for the choir is what it is. Go find whatever fuels your anger or your glee this season.
But if I were a fan of the Clintons, as a fan of the Clintons, I don't think that I would want that.
No, probably not.
So as a
probably
fan
not, unless you're fueling, paranoia or something. I don't know. Anyway, it's silly season. Making a Serial Killer. This is all about. This is a 13-part documentary series on the most notorious serial killers and unsolved cases in America. It is depressing as hell. I'm of an age now where I really don't want to just sort of inundate myself with Charles Manson and Ted Bundy and Son of Sam and all the rest of this horrible stuff. This gets into Columbine as well, and it's a pretty awful sit. Some people are really sadistic that way. I guess it's there for you, but I could not watch this thing all the way through.
Yeah. This is interesting to me. A Sinner in Mecca, right?
Yes.
A little documentary.
It's a good film.
Saudi Arabia, the kingdom of Saud, has all kinds of issues with all kinds of things. One of the things that they have issues with are gay people.
Yes.
Yet, all true believers are called to make the Hajj, to do their pilgrimage, right? And since we know that there are in fact gay people who are devout and called to do the Hajj and make the pilgrimage, one has to wonder, what does a gay guy do when he wants to go do that? Well, you get secret about it, and that's what these guys have done. It's an interesting thing what they've in a culture where in fact you can be killed for being gay, and frankly, for that matter, making movies without the proper authorities having told you that you can make a movie. That's what these young people set out to do their pilgrimage, to make their Hajj, despite the fact that they are gay. They hide it all the way through the film. They're not challenging either the government or the society here in any way, shape, or form. So this isn't about a challenge of that. It's simply about them trying to achieve the required thing. So interesting thing. Nothing particular on this. This is in English with some subtitles.
And a Ken Burns doc, co-directed by Ken Burns, not entirely by Ken Burns. And this is Ken Burns not doing something that is 20 hours long and epic and just massive and huge. It's called Defying the Nazis, The Sharps' War. He directed this with Artemis Joukowsky, and it's narrated by Tom Hanks beautifully. And this is the story of a couple, the Sharps, Wade Still and Martha Sharp, this is an American minister and his wife from Massachusetts. And they made a rather extraordinary choice to go to Europe and engage in basically help dissidents and refugees be able to flee the Nazis through a number of different channels across Europe. And they sacrificed a great deal to be able to do this. And it's sort of extraordinary how this minister and his wife became almost spies, running a kind of an underground railroad of sorts and orchestrating things. It's really an extraordinary story. I'm stunned that nobody has found this story for a narrative film. This is kind of amazing to me because it deserves to be one. And maybe this will inspire somebody to do it, but I'm really amazed that this story wasn't found for a narrative film before this, because it's really, really great. It reminded me a little bit of a Claude Berry French film called Lucy Aubrac that is still one of my favorite films, never released on Blu-ray or DVD. I think it is on DVD. It's not on Blu-ray, but with Carole Bouquet and Daniel Auteuil. Amazing movie. And they're tangling with Klaus Barbie in kind of a similar way. Anyway, this is called Defying the Nazis, The Sharps' War by Ken Burns and Artemis Joukowsky from PBS. Really, really, really a great doc.
One here, When Justice Isn't Just. This is timely. It's very timely. It's a very short film. It's only a 40-minute film. Basically, it speaks to the shootings of
black communities, and police issues.
The whole thing. Civil rights attorney Benjamin Crump is on this thing. Dr. Cornel West is on this thing. A few folks from Black Lives Matters, as well as some law enforcement officials, some sheriffs, some LAPD detectives. Extremely timely. When Justice Isn't Just.
And then Above and Below, our last two docs here. This is not a doc. I'll cover that at the very end. Above and Below by Nicholas Steiner. So this is from Oscilloscope. This is it's hard to really categorize this. This is sort of
not exactly a doc.
It's not a doc. It's like
a movie.
Well, actually, the last one's not really a doc either. These are both sort of out of category. This is more of a mood piece dealing with people who are on the fringes of society. It's kind of it almost feels like a modern Western in some respects, but you
got a guy living in a flood channel. You got it's all out near Vegas.
People,
out in the desert.
People who just live on the edge, on the fringes of society. It doesn't really coalesce into a cohesive whole. It's just more a lot of character studies and little individual mood pieces. But it's very nicely made. It's very deeply affecting. I just wish that it had a little bit more structure to it. But still, that's from Oscilloscope, and it is called Above and Below. And then another kind of an interesting little oddity, Barbarians Rising. This is from the History Channel. There's a certain point at which this stuff from the History Channel really... They mean for it to be taken like as a documentary, but what it really turns into is we wanted to make a series of epic ancient battle movies, but we didn't really have the talent to write dialogue to go with them. So we'll get a documentary narration that goes over all of these artificially staged scenes that involve, Hannibal and Spartacus and Attila the Hun, and we'll stage these movies, but we won't really bother with dialogue. We'll throw narration, and that makes it a documentary.
Lots of great Foley.
That makes it a documentary. What does that make it? I don't know either. But anyway, this is they threw some money into this, but not a lot. So it sits somewhere in a weird netherworld that is some new storytelling medium. I don't really know what to call it.
People
I know they do.
love those things.
Anyway, it's called Barbarians Rising. It's on Blu-ray and Ultraviolet. And then before we completely run out of time, we've got a lot of foreign films here that we have not gotten to, but I am obligated morally to close the show with Krzysztof Kieslowski's Decalogue, which is now out on Blu-ray from Criterion in a beautiful, beautiful custom box set. Many of us have waited our entire lives for this. This was seriously. This is as good as filmmaking ever gets. Kieslowski. Did you ever meet him? Did you ever talk to Kieslowski?
No, never did.
I remember I was at. I first brushed with him at Cannes in '94 when he was there in competition with Red, Three Colors Red. And everyone expected that to sort of give him to be the first Triple Crown winner of the major festivals, right? Because he had won Venice, he'd won Berlin, he won Berlin with blue, he won Venice with white. Here's the third film. He's at Cannes. It's in competition. It's amazing. Everybody thinks, "Oh my gosh, Triple Crown! He's going to be the first guy." And with the trilogy, it's going to be amazing. It's a fairy tale ending. And damn, Clint Eastwood went and leveraged the jury to give it to Pulp Fiction. And Kieslowski walked away with nothing. It was it was a disgrace. It was such a lost opportunity. But and a very
considering particularly so at the time on the day, Clint would have probably got me.
Yeah.
Because Pulp Fiction was a film that in 1994 I was deeply enamored of. Pulp Fiction has worn not so fantastically
not so well
over the 20 whatever it is. Yet these films, the Decalogue and Red, White, and Blue, the through color, these are films that you can put into the Decalogue. Basically, 10 Commandments.
That's it. It's 10 films, each one dealing with. But what's great about the Decalogue is that. You realize that each one of these stories is based on on one of the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not take the Lord's name in vain, all the don't covet. Right, we know them all, but it's not clear
which commandment that's given.
It's not clear how that figures into the story.
Yeah.
You'll watch it and you'll say, okay, so thou shalt. But what does this have to do with that?
This is about Yeah, it's very
very.
Well, for one thing, this was a television. This is a series of
Polish
television. Polish television. This was not a movie. It was TV. Yeah. And so you kind of have to watch them in that context. Everybody does anyway. Everybody would just binge that from beginning to end. It's still modern though. You look at those movies, those programs, totally and completely modern.
All takes place in a single Polish housing project, is important to say. They all kind of interconnect in very interesting, subtle ways. Something he does also in Blue, White, and Red. Yeah. But it's very subtle. There's some person in the background kind of who crosses over, and that person is in all of them. You're like, wait, what is the? Yeah. It's all very symbolic and clever and wonderful. And I actually, I remember that in '94 so well. Because somebody said to him, here he is, this brusque-looking Polish guy, very Eastern European, stern, sitting up there, and someone said, your movie, the color red is used in such and such and such and such a way. Is that were you trying to suggest some kind of symbolic representation of the da-da-da-da-da-da? And Kieslowski just kind of shrugs and leans into the microphone and goes, yeah, sure, that works for me. He just so brushed it off.
Very Polish.
It was such a pretentious question. And here's this guy who makes these really artsy movies who just takes none of it seriously. Yeah. And I was one of the last interviews he had here before he died. Ziggy set me up with the interview. Yeah. And I was so excited. And Ziggy's a good friend of ours, a publicist with a PR firm here that we've known for many, many years. And he is Polish. Yeah. His parents are Polish immigrants. And he was just loving being around Kieslowski. And I said to him, I just can't wait to actually meet him. And here's the thing about Kieslowski. He used to want to be a novelist.
Oh.
And to him, this is an inferior art form.
Yeah,
it's an inferior art form.
Yeah,
it's not
of which he is a master.
Of which he is a master. So in any case, but there it is. So that is Krzysztof Kieslowski's Decalogue. It is just absolutely magnificent, and it is genius, and it comes with lots of really, really great extras on it. Archival interviews with Kieslowski from especially from a 1987 television piece on the production of the film, and some others that are more recent from the 1990s. Archival interviews with cast and crew, trailers. It's all beautiful, and bear in mind when this has been out before on DVD.
No, I have it on DVD.
Yeah, it looked scrapey and gruff and kind of. This is a 4K remaster, and it is amazing, absolutely amazing, just beautiful to look at. So
that was made when it's 133.
1988.
1988. So it's still shaped in the old television aspect.
And it includes the widescreen feature film, a short film about killing and a short film about love, which are elaborations on two of these. So it is just wonderful. You must own this. It is fantastic. With that, we are done, and we are keeping our fingers crossed that Mark gets his health back, and we will see him back soon.
Hang in there, Mark.
See you guys.